Perfect. We're doing this live. We got some naked guys here. I'm going to try and teach my anthropology class so that you can get these notes. I think it's worth it rather than you just reading stuff that I wrote down. So we talked about this before and how this is wrong and more of a linear explanation of evolution. This is where we're going to get started. We're going to go through a lot of these characters here, starting off with Ardipithecus ramidus. Keep in mind you did measure some of these skulls, so a lot of question marks. Basically the gist of this is the longer the line, the more successful they were, or the longer the time they were around. So as you can see, this one fairly successful. Okay. So this is a better family tree kind of thing, or an explanation, or you can see. So a lot of question marks still, a lot of who did this, who did that, and again, kind of a lot of coexisting, especially around this time. So we'll talk about that as we go. So we've talked about this a little bit before. We just came from primates. We are technically ancestors of the primates. They went this way, and we are currently going our way. But that happened about between 5 and 9 million years ago. So that is, again, kind of a long time ago, and things have changed drastically. So some of the early ones that we have talked about, or will talk about, sorry, Ardipithecus ramidus, likely the first type of species that really separated from the other primates and kind of went towards our lineage a little bit more, all the way up to the robust Australopithecines like Australopithecus boise. Some people know him as Jimbo. So this, again, is where we are going to start down here with Ardipithecus ramidus. All the other primates are way back there in terms of lineage. We're going to go into the Australopithecus genus, as well as follow up with the genus Homo. So keep in mind, and I'll give you this example here. Ardipithecus ramidus, sorry, I gotta get off this page here. This would be the genus name, and this would be the species name. So I would like you to keep track of those things, as well as ages, like approximate fossil age, anything unique, cranial capacity, things like that, technologies that they have or didn't, okay? But as you can see, for something this old, that is considered to be quite a complete fossil, all right? So these artist renditions. Anyways, I'll get off that naked page there. Ardipithecus ramidus still had opposable toes, and again, it's thought to be likely the first one that kind of got out of the trees and started to be the first one that kind of went towards us in terms of a species. So quadrupedal for sure, not bipedal yet. Very big snout in terms of the face, and again, remember the measurements that we've done, kind of that you get flatter faces as you get closer to us, basically, okay? So there's the same skull we measured. So this, again, I would like you to know this is a very big range, but that's all we've got, okay? We have fossils that are basically, we can test the geology and stuff like that to figure out how old they likely are, but it's always going to be a fairly large range, okay? Because if we find a fossil that's about 4.5 million years old, we have to assume that there's a little bit of wiggle room on either side too, okay? So Ardipithecus ramidus started down here, and then everything after kind of just slowly got, again, changed towards us. So we've talked about this as well. What does it take to walk on 2 feet? Certain things have to change biologically for this to happen. What has to happen to your skeleton to be able to handle the heavy upper body, okay? And you know, we've talked about these things in class already, but I'll just remind you. If we look at a human skeleton versus a chimpanzee, or better yet, a Neanderthal, you can see, I mean, I don't have to point these out, but I will. The femurs are obviously a lot longer. The pelvis in both the human and Neanderthal, very bowl-like, okay, to handle the upper body weight. The angle, it doesn't show it so much in the humans, but the angle of the femur kind of going in from the pelvis, that is absolutely the case. And then again, things like, this kind of shows it a little bit better. This would be a gorilla, okay, on this side. This would be Australopithecus afarensis, so Lucy, the first considered biped. And this would be a human, all right? You can see the angle meeting the knee, and the kind of more bowl-like hips would be a lot better. The femur length helps you be more efficient, but it's not needed to walk on 2 feet. So obviously our femur length is bigger. We're just more efficient at walking on 2 feet rather than not being able to, okay? The foramen magnum, we've talked about this before as well. Human versus chimp, you kind of migrate to the back of the skull if you're more quadrupedal, okay? And you're kind of right underneath, kind of midpoint if you're bipedal. So here's a couple knee joints. This would be a chimpanzee. This again would be Lucy, Australopithecus afarensis, and this would be a human. So this is what they found with Lucy, as we'll get to her in a second. But when you have a straight line here, that's kind of an indication or a characteristic of walking on 4. But when you have this kind of angle, you know, going up towards the pelvis or hips, that would be kind of an indication of walking on 2. So there we go again, okay? Kenyanthropus platyops, great name, bet you can't figure out where it came from, okay? I thought if I was going to have a 3rd child, I probably would name it Platyops. Is that good? You like that one? I have an audience, no questions yet, great. What is that noise? 3.5 to 3.3 million years ago, Platyops, flat face, so that the snout is getting a little bit less snouty. That's an anthropological term. Basically, the way we do this, okay, again, different genus, different species. If it's different enough, or if there's enough geography or distance in between these things, we might call it a different species, or altogether different genus. So it is important that, like, geography plays a big role here, because keep in mind there were very isolated populations of these things. So here we are over here, in the purple group over here. So why the big difference? The skeleton was different enough, found in a different area altogether, thought to be a different species, okay? Platyops. Any questions so far? Yes? Nothing? Okay. We're starting the Australopithecus genus, so we're going to spend some time here. So another thing about this is, I'd like you to know what's the biggest thing that changed throughout Australopithecus, and once we get into the genus Homo, what are the big things that happened to kind of separate those genuses. Okay? Video number 1.